All right. So, hey, Kenneth.
Hi, Sarah. Good to be with you.
You too. Um, so the reason I wanted to do this video with you, this conversation, is to have some kind of a record, I guess, of my own healing process and then how I've translated that into the work that I do with clients in therapy and the mysterious stuff that happened in between that. Um, So I started seeing you in 2009, I believe, or maybe 2008, 2009. Um, Started off at a Hope and Healing workshop with you and Linda Manning at the Vanderbilt Center for Integrative Health. And then I remember seeing you like walking into the room at that first workshop and going like, that guy looks really free. Like there's something about him, like he just looks really free. And didn't really know what that meant, but I registered something and um, went through the group, which was really beautiful. And then I think maybe a few months later, I reached out to work with you individually, which I had already been working with a couple of people. Um, but the main thing I was bringing was like really deep depression and suicidal thoughts, like the whole nine. Um, and I think what was most healing in our relationship was the fact that I felt like I could be myself. Like I felt like for the first time I felt totally authentic and like nothing was judged. Uh, the non-judgment was like deeper than I could have even imagined. Really, it was like, and I remember you like looking at me straight in the eyes in one of our first sessions, and you were like, that is really hard, like just about some story I was telling, and it was just like I fell apart because you saw it, you acknowledged it, and it felt like invisible up to that point. It was like, whoa, like I've been recognized here. And then it just went from there, like so many tears. I always tell people, like it was like 18 swimming pools of tears. Like it was so much grief that I didn't even know where it came from. Maybe it was ancestral grief. I don't know. But there was a huge piece of like just years of grief, basically. And
Yeah.
um and then sort of a building, like a gradual building process. And I also want to say that I ran away quite a few times during this like 8 years that I worked with you because it was terrifying to be seen in that way. And it's just terrifying work. So that's something maybe I want to talk about too. So I don't know. Is there anything you want to say about that?
I want to say something about the project itself, just your willingness, your desire to reveal these things about yourself and about psychotherapy, and so that other people can benefit from it. You've always struck me as having a universal heart and a heart of a helper, and someone who's always wanting to expand her consciousness. And I just to really appreciate this offering that you're wanting to make. And then secondly, just about, that decision to dive in to the pain like you did. That's hard for all of us at any stage in the journey, but especially starting out and there being so much unknown and so many feelings that are going on that we don't know where they're coming from, hard to understand, but then to just stay with it. And like you said, the important thing, especially at the beginning, is to be seen and heard, which unfortunately is a rare thing because we so we're just kind of built to protect ourselves through denying trauma, and both, as a society and personally. And so just to break through that barrier to where we can go, I think something happened to me. It takes a lot of courage and persistence, as you say, and running and coming back.
And hitting rock bottom.
Yeah.
Might be necessary. I don't know. Uh,
Yeah.
so
Some kind of bottom.
some kind of bottom.
Some kind of it's not working. Some kind of there's more to me than what I think there is.
Right. Right. Um, so in working with clients now these days, this is really my primary motive is to see people, to really to witness people and to hold them kind of in the way that I was held, like to pay that forward. And I'll literally tell like most people that story that I just told, because I really want us to be on equal footing. And I feel like there's so much in the medical model that's kind of putting the therapist or the doctor or whoever the expert in this role of knowing everything when you don't know everything. You just met the person, like
Right.
you don't know them at all. So I really want to be humble in that space. And I think that is actually hard for people sometimes. I mean, in the same way it was hard for me to be seen. It's like, oh, you want me to just be 100% real and be myself? Like, whoa, that's kind of a big ask.
That's right.
Yeah.
We don't even know always how to do that at the beginning, right? What that even means. It has to be, like you say, that non-judgment has to be there so that things can begin to arise that I've been judging. I, as the client, have been judging often severely. Yeah.
Right. Right. So I guess I want to ask, like, maybe you don't remember specifically, but I know it's happened to you with other clients too, like that running away or that like you're doing it wrong or some kind of like reactive process that happens. Like, how do you cope with that as a therapist?
Oh, I think at first I get scared. Are they okay? Is the person okay? Were you okay? And then also I get my feelings hurt. Uh, it's like, and then the questioning, oh, did I go too fast? Was I not tuned in? Did I miss something? I think you go through all that. And then also with the background being that this is how it is with trauma. We can't do everything at once. We have to go toward it, be able to back away from it. Also, to give you your freedom, it is up to you when any of that happens. It is not helpful for me to try and force you into it. What I'm trying to do is create an environment that is attractive enough and interesting enough and safe enough for you to go into it and want to come back to it, knowing that just intimacy itself is hard. Revealing ourselves to another person is difficult under any circumstances, especially when we're going into areas that we're not even all that familiar with ourselves.
Right. And I'll say for as a client, like there were times when maybe I needed to grow on my own. Like maybe I was like like an individuation moment where it was like I need to just do this myself. And which, who knows what the developmental age was at that point, but maybe
Mhm.
it was something that that was helpful in some ways, especially to be able to come back and not be judged yet
Yeah,
again.
it really is a developmental place because there are points like first there's the Is it safe? Can I trust this person? Once we begin to feel like maybe I can, and then we start depending on the other person, counting on them, that's a scary place.
Mm-hmm.
That may be something that's rarely been done, and there's fear and kind of a protective feeling, resistance to that. And there's just a period that we go through where we need to have that dependence, that maybe we weren't able to depend on anybody.
Right.
And then there comes that point, like you're saying, where it's like, okay, with growth, I've also got to know that I've got myself too. And it's not just all about the person who's trying to help me. It's, I want, my life is mine and I want it for mine.
Yeah. I guess we're talking about attachment and different like attachment wounds, and they all look a little different. Um,
Yeah.
so one text I know you teach from a lot is Stephen Johnson's character styles. And
Right.
um, the you call it the earth seeker type, and he calls it the schizoid type, but it's the personality that kind of has like the earliest wounding, like infant, or maybe even, pre-birth
Yeah.
kind of wounding. And so even though probably we all have elements of all the personality styles, like I identify with that one most. And I feel like attachment is so dicey for that one.
Yeah.
That there is something so terrifying about it, that the running away is an absolute necessity. But to see, like, will you still be there when I come back? Like, I must run away, but you better still be there when I come back.
That's right. That's right. Yes. That you don't have to surrender yourself in order to have the other person. I mean, that's an experience that we have. It's like, I've got to lose me in some ways to keep my caregivers, protectors, mother, father, whatever, and to be able to keep ourselves and still have the connection is the healing.
Still working on that one, Kenneth.
Me too. Me too.
It helps that you agreed to do this project, to be honest. Yeah.
In what way?
Because I was like, is he really going to say yes to this? Maybe because
Uh,
I moved to Hawaii. I moved away from the healing community I was a part of through working with you. And I don't know. I think it was maybe part of this attachment healing.
right, that you could move away, be far away, and we could still be connected. Yeah,
Yeah. So thank you.
gladly. And I would love for you to get into that's maybe for a later time, but the importance of that move, because I think that was really significant.
Well, yeah, I can get into it with respect to the Earth Seeker type.
Yeah,
And I love that you renamed all the character styles to in a healthy way of like, what is this person longing for, kind of a thing.
right.
And I mean, there's no better place for an Earth Seeker than Hawaii. How I got here is complicated, but doesn't really matter as much as being here. And I don't know, I just feel like the Mother Earth just has her arms wrapped around me like 24/7 here. And I want to say maybe I've started to take it for granted, but I don't think I have. There's still moments of just like, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to be in this place where I just feel held.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, maybe it's just a little bit of a miracle how I got here. Because it was not planned, but it felt like really necessary. Um, so that's all I can say about that.
Say it again.
That's all I can say about that right now.
Yeah, I just when I think about these early wounds and attachment wounds and uh is it safe to be here? Do I belong here? Am I good? Is this world good? And if there's if there are problems at the earliest stages, it's that's not at all clear to the being or to the body
Right.
that it's safe. And and it often it doesn't feel like people are safe.
Yeah.
And when that's true, when you can't really get the sense of holding and belonging through another person, a lot of times people look to animals, to pets, to the natural world, to the flower world, and like you said about Hawaii, talk about a holding in beauty, in warmth, in power, uh, in this sense of my needs are met.
Yeah.
That I have what I need here, and when just the earth itself or the environment itself can offer that, that's kind of the beginning and the place where you can kind of find your feet and then move more into human connection.
Yeah. And I think where I am right now is like I'm building a relationship with my own inner baby. Is how it feels. It's like this very intense, like cathartic healing that's been happening lately. Maybe post pandemic, it's really set in. Um, and yeah, I do. I mean, as I'm consciously doing this healing process, I am like, I hope at some point this will translate into like intimacy with people, which has not been my forte,
Yeah,
it's like I love my friends, and yeah, there is like keeping people at arm's length happens just because it has to.
yeah,
But I don't like it, I would prefer it to be different. So I have an awareness that it's it's something inside of me. I can't be afraid of myself, right? I have to somehow surrender to that early fear and accept it and forgive it, like being my own mama in a sense, in order to feel safe with others.
yeah. And the ocean is not judging me, and the
Right,
light is not judging me,
right.
and the stones are not, and they can meet me. I can
Mhm.
come out and meet them, and that it can't always be. The other person doesn't always meet us, or we're not able to come out and meet them.
Yes. Um, this is making me think of a John Parakos workshop I did like years ago in New York City, the founder of Core Energetics, but he said something like I was up there working and I don't know what I was doing, but he said something like everybody has a piece of this in them. So this existential terror, let's call it, there, even though maybe that's my primary thing, like everybody's got some of it. So that makes me feel like, well, I'm not alone, you know. Um, and working this is important, it's important. And that weirdly makes me feel like I belong.
That's right. That you're not the only one who's grappling with this.
Right.
Yeah. Uh, and that's another thing about this particular kind of wounding where you feel like a stranger in a strange land, right? It's
Mhm.
like, do I, is this even where I was supposed to end up here, here on earth, in this family, in this society, and those are real questions for all of us. and yeah, there's nobody. I mean, the people can go a lifetime without asking themselves these questions, but there's nobody who doesn't have this to waiting on them, if they inquire.
Hmm. Yeah. So in some weird way, like even though I do feel disconnected socially a lot of the times, I feel existentially connected to people. And I love that place, that like existential wounding, because it is universal and I can see it, and wrap my arms around it in others. And in that way, it continues to heal me when I can witness that place in others and be like, nope, you're safe. Don't ask me how I know, but I know you are.
Yeah, we
And
all want safety. We all want to feel like we're loved. We all want to feel like we own ourselves and we have sovereignty in that way.
yeah. So, do you feel like healing others continues to heal you?
Mm. No question about it. I learn something every day. That's the part of the joy of the work. I can't escape myself.
Right.
A person brings a place where there is uh, great pain, and if I if I don't go there with them, I'm not doing my job. I can't help them heal. Now, if I do go there with them, I get healed in the process. It never changed. I mean, it happened today, just around uh, severe childhood trauma and the uh, whole sense of, let's see if I can just call it up, because it was really emotional for us both. Well, it was around it happened. It was another layer of it happened. This was childhood sexual abuse. And she was able to say, today I was tortured.
Mm.
That's a very hard thing to own. And when you do own it, just the word, I mean, there's grief with that. And she said she'd been crying for a few days after our last session. That was the good news, that she was grieving what that her child self had been through and what it had cost her. And that was the other part of it, is just there are losses to be grieved. And it's so, like, for me, it reveals places where, okay, have I actually really grieved those losses in me?
Mhm.
And oftentimes it opens up some new territory where there is more to do.
Yeah, I have the same experience every day. In fact, like I take little breaks after every session to like process what happened because I want to catch up with myself. And if I don't do that, yeah, that's just an important part of my
Yeah.
process.
Oh, yes, there is. I mean, once you've gone through the session, you've gone through your emotional journey too, and the integration is important and uh, helps us come back to ourselves while we're helping somebody else.
Yeah, and to be fully present for the next person. Um,
Well, that's right.
um, is there anything else you want to share about anything we've talked about?
Mm. Uh, I'm just thinking about the body aspect. I mean, a lot of my work is very body centered, somatic psychology, breath, body awareness, enactment. And I know you do that too. And in terms of the schizoid or the earth-seeking child, one of the key things is embodiment, because embodiment is what we escape from when we are in great pain and great fear. Dissociation is one of the primary defenses that we have, kind of a mental leaving of ourselves and leaving our bodies so that we don't have to remain in the terror, in the pain.
Mhm.
And so to come back to the body is to come back to the earth. We touch the earth so we can feel our bodies, but also by being in our bodies, we have more connection to the earth. We have more connection to other people. We're more able to know what our boundaries are because we're listening to our bodies. So we're not just ignoring the information our body's receiving around whether it's safe or when we've been hurt or insulted or any of those things. And
Mhm.
through the embodiment, we just have more information to make the best choices for ourselves. As long as we're in a more dissociated state, it's safer in the sense that we're not as overwhelmed, or it's both things. It's evidence of our overwhelm, and it's also a way of coping with the overwhelm. To just be separate from ourselves in some ways. So
Yeah.
one of the things we're trying to do is come back to in a body, I belong in a body. There is pleasure to be had in my body. There is, in fact, the experience of pleasure. One of the things about being in Hawaii, there are many pleasures for the body on the island, right? And so that's the way to invite ourselves back into our bodies is, hey, there's pleasure to be had, not just pain or anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah. It's my biggest anxiety management tool is the ocean and dancing, the ocean and dancing. Because yeah, I could get like extreme pleasure of just those two things. It's like I'm totally in bliss. It's so happy to be alive, and the rest of life is complicated. But but yeah, these things sustain me for sure.
And just the experience of bliss is kind of this signal is there are other possibilities, there are other ways to live, there's something to receive from other people and from the world.
Yeah. And do you still use that slogan, I guess, not slogan, but where you say ecstasy is not an indulgence, bliss is, what is it? I forgot.
Yeah, it's freedom is not a luxury, ecstasy is not an indulgence.
Yeah, see that makes you different. Um, because
Well, I'm glad you're bringing it up. I mean, I am guided by the ecstasy. It's like it's not like we can make ecstasy happen so much as uh, my suspicion grows more and more that we are ecstatic beings. You know, the the trauma, the experience, the pains of the world, we contract or we separate sometimes, but that the child in his or her natural state has access to bliss, that unified sense, that sense of I'm a part of this whole thing and it's all interconnected. And that's part of the safety is that experience of, oh, this is all interrelated because the trauma gives us that sense of separation, alienation, difference. And so when you have an experience of bliss, like in dance, it's like that's a knowing in the body of the truth of our interrelatedness.
Yeah.
And it's when we're in a lot of fear and we are in defense that we sometimes lose that.
Hmm.
So the bliss is kind of a signal that there's much more to me than my woundedness.
Yeah, and it's a sign of healing, I think, like if someone begins to feel that, because it makes life worth living. And that permission is something that I seek to give people too, which I learned from you. I had it validated by you, I guess,
Mm,
over and over many years. And it was like, no, that is what you want, and that is what everybody wants. And it's like so freeing to identify that, like that's healing. Because I think there are so many mental versions of what healing is that are really not true. um,
yeah. And, you know, it's ecstasy. It's not positive thinking. It's not don't worry, be happy. Ecstasy is an opening. It's allowing all of ourselves. It's allowing all those feelings. And as we allow all those feelings, sadness, anger, hate, rage, hurt, disappointment, insult, um, sexual desire, joy. It's not leaving out any feelings.
mhm,
It's not ecstasy good, sadness bad. Ecstasy contains sadness and grief and
right.
anger.
Yeah, which is why I feel like validation, as simple as a tool as it seems to be, maybe clinically, is kind of everything. It's like, yeah, every part of you is okay and sacred and holy, in fact. And
Yeah.
um, I feel like sometimes I get feedback from clients that, like, this is too simple, or we're just having a conversation, and like you said, that it does hurt my feelings sometimes, but I also
Yeah.
realize that if you've spent a lifetime feeling invalidated or invalidating yourself, and someone's just sitting there saying, nope, that's okay, nope, that's okay too, it starts to feel really dangerous. And some
That's,
pushback would be actually expected.
yeah.
So
Just a way of saying, I'm scared. In so many
yeah.
ways, we have to honor that. But uh, yeah, that's a that's a whole topic about all the kinds of things that happen in therapy. You know, people talk about therapy as rent a friend or something like that, and that's just a huge signal of not much exposure or awareness or understanding of what's going on because the world's going on in a psychotherapy session.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot happening right now in terms of, I don't know, like Gabor Mate and people like really bringing trauma informed um, care to the forefront, which is very cool. And at the same time, people start getting very mental about it. Like, well, let's do this trauma informed treatment in 6 weeks, and let's bring out my inner child and heal her like right now,
Yeah, yeah,
because I've been told that's what needs to happen. It's like, yes, and it may take many years, a lifetime, and nobody wants to hear that.
that's right. That's right. And one moment of genuine connection can be transformative, right? One moment where you feel like the therapist is being authentic and I'm being authentic. And sometimes in therapy is the first time anybody experiences that. And if not the first time, maybe one of the few times they've experienced it as fairly reliable. And we'll miss, there's no way to do our work perfectly because it's an ongoing experiment, but we know where we're trying to get to. And one of those places is just one human being meets another without judgment, without barriers, without trying to take advantage of, get the upper hand, use the other person, where we're both sitting here together as free beings trying to get freer, trying to know that freedom.
Yeah, which reminds me of Stephanie Fu and her therapist, Jacob Hom, which is kind of what gave me the idea to create this video in the first place. She's a journalist who wrote a book about recovering from complex trauma, and a lot of her journey included like trying to find the right therapist. And when she finally met Jacob Hom, it was like, there's something authentic here. There's something real. Like he exposes his vulnerability. He exposes how much he cares about her and how hurt he is by the things that happen to her. And like, oh, I messed up there. And it's almost like she did a lot of important work before she met him, but that was sort of the turning point. It seems to me. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but yeah, just that authentic connection, and like she had been searching and searching for it.
Yeah, and there's just that part, you can be with somebody who's a psychotherapist who's a good person, has some things to offer, but not be that match that we need, that we couldn't even name all the things that person would be, but we just begin to know, oh yeah, this is what I need. Something about what happens between us is nourishing and free.
Yeah, and the breath work element that you bring was so vital to me. It was absolutely essential in terms of what you were saying before about embodiment. And like it's almost like I've just been holding my breath my entire life, and to breathe is like a revolution or something.
That's right. It is. And we don't know. It's an unconscious thing. We're all breathing, so we assume, yeah, everything's fine on that front. But actually, all the ways that we hold, embrace, and grip, in an effort to protect ourselves and to stay safe and to try and be what we think the other person needs from us. Those are all happening unconsciously, and it's happening in our bodies too, including don't take a full breath, because a lot of things start happening when we take a full breath. We begin to return to our body, to feel our feelings, to experience need, which needs that we've tried to bury for a long time. Breath begins to connects us to a wider world, and all that is new.
So let me ask you this. I know that you are doing more in-person sessions now, but during the COVID online era, like how did you work breath work in to those sessions?
Sarah, mostly I didn't. I was so miserable. And I fought Zoom. And inside myself, I fought Zoom so hard. I was like, oh, this is just, I've been stripped of all that I count on to help people, and all we had was uh, televised images of ourselves, and but the other part of that was I saw that things could happen even doing this. Right, there was that intimacy happened over Zoom. I didn't care for it at first, but of course I began to value it because I was uh, lonely myself. And so I valued Zoom in that way. But then I began to see it's what we had, and the need in everyone that I talked to was so great, right? So even that, I think the need transcended the medium in many ways. But what I did switch to was, I know some people are doing like breath work through Zoom, but I haven't. I just feel like I want to be there with the person for what happens. There are plenty of breath practices, of course, we can do our own on our own. But what I did with Zoom was like still keep the focus on the body, asking questions about the body. What's it like in your body right now? What do you notice? Uh, where's the energy flowing? Where's the tension?
Mhm.
Uh, and those kinds of questions that lead us back to our body. I don't. I think the breath and dance and yoga and all the arts that allow that embodied expression are so crucial to what we do. But
Mhm.
just having someone be with us and being interested in what's going on in our body is healing, and it's the feeling the person knows and cares that I exist. I exist is a question for someone who has those attachment and birth kind of wounds.
Mhm. Yeah, I do that too. I do a lot of like, let's meditate together, let's breathe together, like let's check in and just kind of the beginning of the session or at the end or in the middle, just like let's not fly off into our heads because that's not that helpful,
Yeah.
really. And I was using energy work combined with therapy for a while, but COVID kind of shut that down and I haven't really brought it back. But like you said, it does translate pretty well over Zoom. If
The
you're
energy
committed.
part does.
Yeah, well the breath part and the energy part, I do a little of both, but I think of
Mhm.
it mainly as mindfulness and
Right.
um
Yeah, that's an important distinction, because uh, grounding, I call that particular wound like earth seeking, and grounding is a big part of that, this sense of I am here, I exist, I am in this place, I have a place to stand. And
mhm,
so, like you're saying, guided breath is grounding because it takes us to body awareness. These other kinds of breath work, they're grounding, but they're also, when you're doing the kind of breath that is more intense and sustained, that's the kind of breath that's designed to loosen the boundaries so that more of the unprocessed work can come up, more of the unknown, more of the unconscious, more of the feeling self and the body sensations. So, two different uses for breath.
right, right. Yeah. I have actually referred people to breath work in the past, since it's not something that I actually offer, but um, hoping for an integration of some kind
right, right.
with that. But is there anything else you want to say about that?
Mm. I'll say just a little bit about my own entering into my own body, like breath work. I got introduced to breath work, I guess, in my early 20s. And it let me know how disconnected from myself that I was. I didn't know I was disconnected from myself. Sarah, I don't know if I knew there was a self to be disconnected from,
Mm-hmm.
but the breath work gave me a sense of my body and a sense of a different way of feeling. I mean, just things like grieving uh, uh, from my whole body, or feeling great pleasure in my body, or just feeling relaxed, depths of relaxation that I didn't even know were possible. I'm just going along in my regular, unconsciously tense way and calling that relaxation, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the body releases, when the body gets invited and gets a chance to release, oh, I've been so tense. I've been so held and scared. Oh, I can relax at levels I never imagined.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about, you're talking about, oh, this is too simple. Uh, relaxation sounds so simple, but the kind of relaxation we're talking about is not lying down on the sofa, and getting ready for a nap. It's a release at the core levels, so that we're not having to fight ourselves, fight our feelings, fight our needs, fight anybody finding out that we feel these things or need these things. And that's a different type of relaxation.
Right. That's freedom.
Yeah.
Like, I've been seen, I'm vulnerable. There's nothing to hide. There's not hiding anything from myself.
Right. Not hiding from myself. And if I hide, I'm aware I may choose to do that. It's not a wrong thing, but I'm making choices rather than my fear is deciding for me, or some other feelings are deciding for me.
Yeah, and I think before having that experience, there may be a tendency to try to get that through other people, like get that freedom through somebody else without having it first yourself. And so then you create something quite dysfunctional because that person actually can't give it to you. And they're probably looking for it for themselves. And so there's a misplaced demand happening in both directions.
Sarah, I don't think I'm making this up. I think I'm remembering a time when you said to me very directly, I am mad at you that you can't do this for me.
I'm sure I said, I don't remember it, but I don't doubt it at all.
It touched me so deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I think what's under that is like, actually, you were holding me and I didn't want to feel that, I didn't want to feel the safety of that.
Yeah.
And the the vulnerability of not having been held in the past.
Yeah. Speaking to that, there's a guy this past week who we were doing some work, and he had said something that I just kind of reflected and affirmed to him. And he said, I hate that I'm beginning to trust you.
I'm gonna beat you up.
Just really honest, and just, that's the thing. When we begin to feel that trust, we feel that being called out to be more of ourselves. And it's a challenging thing.
Well, Kenneth, along those lines, I fell in love with you in the beginning of our work. I was like head over heels, like insane.
Mhm.
And I wasn't thinking rationally. And I remember bringing that to you, saying like, this is happening. Like, I don't know what to do. And you were just very calm. Like you didn't push it away, but you were like neutral, and but loving and compassionate. And it was again like I can bring that, I can bring whatever. And it wasn't that embarrassing because you were just like, huh, you know. And I needed to go through that falling in love process and not have that be pushed away or judged. And then it was like, okay, I'm safe to like be attached to this person.
So glad you brought that. Brought that up. That is such a vulnerable thing, for you to bring this in love feeling, which is like, we all know that's an out of control feeling, like we're not calling all the shots at
Right.
that. And that's also the place where it's so important that we not be taken advantage of in that moment of that kind of vulnerability and that wide open outpouring of love, right? And to just let that be there without it being exploited or used.
Mm-hmm.
A key moment.
Yeah.
A key moment that can last for, days, weeks, months, but key.
So I don't know if that is characteristic of schizoid earth seeker types, but that I have a strong tendency to fall in love like that, and I needed it held safely. I needed it treated with so much safety.
Yeah.
And so yeah, just thank you for that.
Very grateful to be in it with you. And I will say about the thing I wanted to say about that too was your life force. One of the things with the earth seeking type is when the life force is met with harshness or rejection or whatever, we pull our life force in really back toward our core to try and protect it.
Right.
And then here is this moment where you're beginning to trust, and it's like, then this life force, and you've got a lot of it, it is opening and coming to the surface and coming out, and that's like birth. That's like being born anew after a deep contraction. And to just let that be and let that flow and to have the pleasures of your own life force.
Right.
Not to say that being in love isn't also miserable in its way, but it has its pleasures too. And one of them is that intensity of self, right? That I can love this much.
Yeah, for sure. No, it was miserable too, because of course you weren't going to reciprocate it. So I had to eventually accept that, but that was important and healthy. Um, yeah, I mean that professional boundary was everything there too,
Yeah.
you know. So it was part of my growth
Yeah.
to see, like you said, I can feel this much love and it's not going to just blow me out of the water.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe I'm still sitting with that.
It's one of those places where you talked earlier about the mutuality, and we're sitting together in psychotherapy. We're both humans doing our own work toward our own liberation, and then there's the part where there is that difference, where as a psychotherapist, it is my part to create a container that can hold intense feeling, and that's part of the agreement of psychotherapy,
Mhm.
to be able to offer that, so that you can have feelings that intense and find your way with it to know, oh, okay, I can work with this, like you're saying. I can have this kind of power and
Mhm.
not be overwhelmed by it. I can learn to not be overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, for sure. Um, and again, it's just part of like that validation that I feel like I can pass on to others of like really anything goes, like anything is okay. There's nothing off the table
Yeah.
here. Um,
Yeah.
Wanting people to have their full range. So, uh,
I appreciate that you are passing that on.
yeah, I mean, including feeling like very suicidal for the year leading up to our work together. It's like, okay, that's okay too. Like that's part of it. So it's this range of where we can go, um, and have it be okay, I think is so important. Um,
And the importance of uh, growing and learning through your own experience. And then when you're sitting with someone who's talking about, I'm having suicidal thoughts, that you've been there, you know what that is, and you know what it is to go beyond that. And so that authority is already there inside you. You're not having to make it up. It's already
right.
there.
Yep. And it's a relief not to be there, I have to say.
That's right. And and you also have the authority of that hope, because you know what it is to not be there.
And we could go into another hour talking about dissolving of the ego, but that's probably like a completely different subject. But interesting.
Yes. We'll give that its due another time.
But this has been really fun. And maybe I'll end the recording and then we can talk just a little bit more.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds